My name is Clara Towson, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisca George, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Leemans and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zainab Sammaz and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jan Faria and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Yes.
Take one. Well done.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paulini and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time.
Ready? Play.
How about this for a unique start to the show? You don't get this on the Iga and Carlos show.
No, on Iga and Carlos show, you just get Vansh saying, hello, this is episode number whatever, and then we get rolling. But I don't think we've eaten on the show before. I've probably eaten on some Talking Tennis streams.
Oh, no doubt, especially the lengthy ones. This is representative of my depression related to Manchester United losing again. Oh, Vanch. Oh, you don't get that on the Iga and Carlos show either. Do we know who Iga supports? I think Carlos is a Madrid fan. Am I right?
I think so.
Where's Iga from, Damien?
Warsaw.
Okay, maybe she's a lady.
And she actually belongs to the club, so I guess
belongs to the club.
I mean, Legia has a tennis section, you know.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see. Gotcha. All right.
Yeah.
Yes, already a comment on United being horrendous. Completely fair. Thank you, Ozan, for joining us, and keep commenting. What did I want to begin with? Oh, there was some, but yeah. Oh, Iga and Carlos show. So Vanch gets things underway. That's pretty much a thing, is it? So Vanch says, "Hi, this is episode."
Okay. Episode whatever. Yeah. Welcome to Iga and Carlos tennis show episode whatever 46, 47, and then we just get right down to business.
Get right down to business. No messing about. No muffins. No talk of football. Just get right down to business. Okay, let's do that as best we can. Regarding the current tennis landscape, which will involve at least 50% of the Iga and Carlos show. No prizes for guessing which 50% that is. In fact, let's begin, shall we, with Iga. I saw a lot of people frothing at the mouth regarding her performances. Obviously, one was a very lopsided, easy win that she had, but I think a lot of people were very excited by this particular rally that she had with Casper Ruud. And I get it, but ultimately, the winner wasn't aimed at Casper Ruud. Am I right in that particular rally?
Sort of, but that's the point, right? I mean, she was going at Ruud until she spotted an opening because Aikari moved a little prematurely. So in a way, she did out-rally Casper. At first, I think Zielinski and Ruud were trading ground strokes, but it was just for a brief second, and then you get like 20 shots of Iga and Casper just going at each other. It was very fun. And it was very needed as well, of course, after the bagel second set.
Yeah, let's share something on the screen right now in terms of group standings at the very least, which hopefully will become clearer as well as we progress for our audience as well. Let me just get this up on the screen. Just while I do this, though, Vanch, tell me about Iga in the doubles in particular, but also her singles win and where we're at, particularly in terms of the fact that I think I'm going to get reminded of my 5th place prediction for Iga come the year end of 2025 with every match and tournament, especially Grand Slam, that she ends up winning in 2025.
Yeah, that's definitely bold to have her at number 5. But
bold is my favorite word.
Is basically top 2, but I don't know. I don't think we learned that much in the first singles. Just the quality gap was too big for me to really have any much of a takeaway. The doubles, the Iga Ruud rally and this has been kind of a meme on tennis Twitter for like a couple of years, but I guess it kind of started when she did the same with Zverev last year, I think maybe in the final, even though they ended up losing that doubles. Just like high octane trading against top male players. It just gets that rally get posted over and over again, and it'll probably be shared for the next couple of days repeatedly. But I think she looked pretty good. She looked like, she'd kind of put the off-season stuff behind her, at least for the time being. We'll see if like the high competition like high intensity of the competition and how deep they actually go, whether that impacts her chances in Australia, because I mean she's played this twice, and it hasn't actually translated to a great Australian Open for her. And the one time she didn't play it, she did make the semis. So
Yeah.
that is something to watch out for.
How does she end up in the semis in 2022 and not coming close to repeating that ever since? I'm trying to think who she beat en route to those semis, Damien.
Well, that's kind of the story. I mean, there was this very tough match against Kirstea. Who was it? Like Kaya Kanepi maybe as well along the way.
Kaya Kanepi in the quarters, yeah.
Yeah, it just wasn't like that tough of a road.
Okay.
By the semis, we kind of had no idea, of course, how she was going to fare later, but Barty had already defeated her in Adelaide. It's fair to just think that it would have happened, the same way in the final. So I think in 2022, she pretty much had as much of a chance to win that event as in 2023 or 24, even though she ended up losing much earlier. It's just Barty was way too strong in 2022 anyway. And that was kind of the tennis landscape at the time, right? It was Barty and then nobody. So that's kind of like how Iga, I think, at the time, even though she was much weaker as a player than she is right now, I think at the time, there was just this opportunity for a run was there.
Within 5 months, it was going to be Iga and nobody, or maybe even a bit less, sort of between
even less, even Sunshine Double probably.
Yeah, exactly. Are we seeing anything? It's probably too early to start to talk about Swiatek and the relationship with, or the coaching situation with Wim Fissette coming in, Vanch. We obviously saw 3 matches in the WTA finals that they had together, and we've seen 1 singles match and now a doubles match here in Australia. If we haven't seen anything really that we can pinpoint, what should we be looking out for in especially the next 3 or 4 weeks across this Australian swing regarding changes that Swiatek might be bringing to her game, Vanch?
Well, so what I wanted to see from her, and I kind of pushed for this after the U.S. Open, and I mean almost all throughout her hard court losses in the majors, is I just wanted to see more of like a plan B so she can get out of that ball matching mode that she found herself in against Pegula, which just resulted in straight up hitting contests. And I want her to use her athleticism and speed so that she can, play a little bit further behind the baseline, especially on return, give herself a little bit more time so she can use her world-class athleticism to turn points around and her defense. Because I feel like, that part of her game was being kind of underutilized, or maybe she just mentally wasn't in the right headspace, and possibly pressure, possibly just, feeling, she hasn't made a hardcore semi in a long time. So I think I'm just going to look for that and see if there's any other, ways that she goes about attacking, because, that kind of nerve fest performance, those kind of nerve fest performances, you want to see an improvement in that regard, and you don't want to just see her dominate the clay. You want to see it happen in other places too. But I think the return position is something to watch out for. I think the just more variety, maybe just some more higher loop air shots, just some more calmer point construction type things, and I think the serve as well is just going to continue to get better, and hopefully we'll see that pay dividends in some matches, like it already did last year in some matches on the clay, but we're going to see it more in Australia, hopefully.
Damien, are we likely to see any drop shots and changes in return position from her? I think this is something that sort of the casual observers are looking out for, but maybe there's something you can add to what Vanch said.
Not really. I mean, drop shots, maybe not in Australia, maybe by the clay season, if anything. But it's still early days. I don't think we actually could have learned anything from today based on how Iga was playing, because, Marlene Helgo is just not the type of opponent where she's going to have to push herself. And then the mixed is just such a different challenge. I think the only thing we really knew we can expect was that, at the Beijing King Cup finals, even though the situation with the doping was still not yet out and everything was uncertain, she gave 200% engagement, and this is exactly what she did today. I mean, it's kind of fair to say that she carried Zielinski to the win, which sounds a bit crazy, but that was basically what happened. So I think from that standpoint, obviously, we are not disappointed. And the match against Muchova will be a big tell. This is such a different opponent to what others try to play against Iga on the tour. She can just lure her into rallies that usually lure her into patterns that Iga that usually shies away from. Usually just wants to be stuck to the baseline and glued to the baseline. and Muchova is like a complete opposite of that. So that's going to be super fun. But yeah, I mean, today was just like a warm-up for her, really. Even if they lost the mixed, I would have called it a warm-up because it's such a like fast-paced format. Yeah, I mean, obviously the patterns are so different.
Good to see we've got the big three in the chat, Jake, Nerlan, and Ghosty. There was something I wanted to add to that, actually, Damien, or it was actually to pick up on from something Matthew was saying in the chat about her catch. So that was a decision. That was a tactical decision, was it, not to play her catch in those doubles, Damien?
Seems like that was made a few days ago because she was already practicing with Zielinski. Like, I don't remember what the exact date it was, but like 2-3 days ago. Honestly, yeah, I think it's justified. Perhaps they also asked Hurkacz. Of course, the captain of the Polish team is the sparring partner of Hubert Hurkacz. So I'm sure, you know, if Hurkacz, like, if they really felt like he should play, he probably would have played. However, yes, I mean, with him just coming back from an injury, plus Zielinski winning two slams in mixed doubles last year, yeah, I think it was a reasonable decision. Did he play well? Not at all. I think Zielinski does have a bit of an issue with, like, let's say, you know, just keeping his nerves clean in matches like this. I'm not even saying this is like a massive opportunity for him, but it's massive in many ways, just like, you know, representing your country. In September, we lost the Davis Cup to South Korea, and he and Drzewiecki, they were supposed to be like the main, you know, culprit behind our winning chances, and that wasn't the case because he was also very, very nervy, or like he was super on edge in that Australian Open final that he had with Ugo Nis a couple of years ago. So I think that was just another one of these days where he was just clearly very tight. The new scenario, the new situation was getting to him, but maybe that's good for the rest of the event because I mean, I have no idea what the decision would be right now if we were to play the mixed with the Czechs, because this wasn't a great performance from Zielinski, but maybe it's worth to just kind of keep going and just treat this as a debut performance. But yeah, I think both decisions are perfectly sort of like justifiable. Personally, I probably would have stuck with Hurkacz. He had really nice chemistry with Iga in the past 2 editions, but Zielinski, I mean, he won 2 slams in mixed doubles last year. So
when is that Czech versus Poland clash?
New Year's.
Okay, yes, and that will be to decide to see who tops the group and obviously goes through. There is a small chance that the loser in that particular encounter could still qualify as the best runner-up in Sydney. I say a small chance, a 1 in 3 chance, of course. But yeah, that's going to be fascinating. What do we think about that? Let's talk about that particular encounter. We've seen both players play their singles matches. Muchova against Swiatek, I'm specifying on Vanch. Are we pumped for that? I expect a WhatsApp for you at some point in the next 24 hours saying that you're pumped for that particular encounter.
Yeah, that's one of those matches that I kind of want to just focus solely on when it's happening, and just give that like my undivided attention, because I've been waiting for more matches between them, and they haven't come as frequently as, you know, mostly due to Muchova's health. But so when we finally have a healthy Muchova, it's like worth watching, especially.
It might just be a little too early in the season as well to draw. I mean, whoever wins in whatever fashion, unless it's a crushing win for one or the other, I think it might just be a little bit too early to draw in. I mean, the panic stations will be out if Iga loses for sure, but that'll be premature. And the hype train either way might be wrong. I just think if it comes in a quarterfinal or a semi-final in Melbourne, although I'm guessing because of Muchova's ranking right now, it could be even earlier than that. Where's Muchova ranked right now, roughly?
I think 20, 22,
20 something. I don't know.
So what could that be? A 3rd or 4th round clash?
It actually very much depends on whether she's in the 17-24 category or the 25-32.
And then
if 25-32
we
would be
know the exact number, basically.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but anyway, it could be early-ish, first week-ish.
Plus, she can also get points at the United Cup, right? I mean, let's assume she gets 500 points here, and then, of course.
Yeah, points at stake here at the United Cup. But anyway, okay.
Well, she's 21 already, so yeah, I mean, 4th round at the earliest.
Would you be bold enough, Vanch, to make a prediction already for Iga Muchova?
I don't know, but I think it's definitely going to be tight. Like I think definitely 3 sets either way. I'll say maybe Swiatek gets it done in 3, but yeah, that's me also just hoping for a really good match.
I think that's where the sound money would be, that one way or another Iga gets the job done. 2-1 is their head-to-head, so they've really not played that often at all. Of course, one of those, the most well-known, of course, was the French Open final, which Muchova was a breakup, I think, leading 4-3 in that deciding set. Hopefully she doesn't have too many nightmares over that, but they've all been 3 sets. The first of which went the way of Muchova. Wow, look at that. The first was in 2019. So that goes back quite some time, and that's obviously pre-Iga, if you know what I mean. And then there was that one at Roland Garros, which Iga then followed up by winning in 3 on a hard court in Montreal. Okay, let's move on, unless you've got something else to add, Damien.
No, not really. Yeah, I wonder about that. Carolina complained that the surface was slow. I mean, we're in Sydney, right? So it should be pretty quick, but we'll see. Honestly, I mean, neither match. Helgo against Muchova or Swiatek against Helgo. Yeah, we just have no indicators really regarding either player's form.
Okay. What other matches were you keen on last night or whenever? I don't know what time it was for you, Vanch, actually. What other matches have you been across in the last 24 hours? Let's say that.
It's Mahach, Matthew. I'll just say it's not Lehechka.
Okay,
yeah, I kept an eye out on Team Greece with Sakurai coming back. I wanted to see how she looked. I mean, she didn't look good at all against Monaro in the first match, and she just got, just comprehensively beaten. And I kind of figured, like, okay, is it rust? Is she still not fully 100%? Is, what really happened there? But then I watched her play against Raducanu, and it was much better. But Raducanu was just so good after 4-all, and basically just kind of ran away with it at the end. The other shocker was, I guess it's not that much of a shocker that, Tsitsipas in another match, kind of that he, should really be winning. He found himself losing in straights to Shevchenko and 7-0 in the second set tiebreaker, and it just kind of the body language was off. He was struggling with some stomach problem, I think, after the first set, but it wasn't even that hot. And I don't know. I just don't think he fully is. It seemed like he was kind of going through the motions, like we saw a lot of last year on outside of clay, and he looks a bit lost right now. So that was kind of my takeaway, watching that. I mean, the backhand is always going to be an issue somewhat for him, but I just didn't feel like the strengths were holding up as well as they should be a couple of years ago. Like the serve and the forehand, just not as clinical. And I think that's that. We'll see if it's any different in Australia, but so far the first couple of matches, even though he barely scraped by against Carreño Busta, it just wasn't convincing whatsoever. So
Tsitsipas, thoughts, Damien?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've said it a few times already that he just became completely irrelevant on hard courts. Everybody knows what to play against him. He seems to be aware of it also, given some of his sort of like the conversation that he had today, right, with the captain. And I mean, this was a tie where we all expected a mixed. I think in that mixed doubles, given Sakkari's form and also given how well Rybakina and Shevchenko hit it off in the first match, I think there would have been a chance for Kazakhstan to take it, despite the usual great chemistry between Sakkari and Tsitsipas, but not to even get there. It's really hurtful for Steph, and it just makes you once again question whether this is going to change in any way this year, because by the time the clay rolls around, and especially his favorite event in Monte Carlo, I will be like, yeah, sure. I mean, probably he's going to be strong. He's one of the contenders. But right now on hard courts, it just never really seems like there's an event where we're thinking, oh, Tsitsipas will go deep here.
What's his coaching situation right now? I mean, again, I'm thinking, even just with that comment, I'm just thinking, well, I mean, I'm not saying that the best coach in the world could turn his backhand into the best backhand in the world, but I don't know. I don't even know what's going on with his coaching situation. Do you know, Vanch?
I think he's still with that Greek Davis Cup captain.
Okay.
I don't remember his name. It's certainly not a big name. Yeah, it's certainly not like a big name. And, he might be a great coach. I just don't know too much about him.
No.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think it's a bit of I mean, there are sort of people already reacting to this loss to Shevchenko and talking about, well, Steph might become pretty irrelevant by this time next year in terms of outside the top 20. That could be a little bit carried away, and we'll see. Of course, as Damien highlighted, he'll normally kick into gear by the beginning of the clay court season, and Monte Carlo in particular. But that is several months away, so it could be tough times in between now and then. What about a word on Shevchenko, Damien?
Yeah, I mean, he was pretty horrible in that first match against Carreño Busta. So to then
Yeah.
recover for the mixed, I think, yeah, definitely the intensity was there when he was playing with Rybakina. Seemed like she kind of also made him raise his level. He's got a pretty strong serve. Like it's not normally like too consistent or like, the spots aren't hit, but the pace is there. So I think he can definitely be a factor in the mix going forward with her. And singles, I was kind of surprised with how well he played against Steph, to be honest. But sure, I mean, he obviously is a talented player. Just last year had this like very weird season, was maybe the biggest beneficiary of this new point distribution, right? Because he went like 40% on the ATP tour or whatever, and he's like easily in the top 100. So now his goal is to like just step away from this. Just don't be just a middle guy, just someone who basically is there in the draws, but no one cares about him. So I don't know. I mean, if he wants to do that, obviously more top 10 win. No, well, Steph isn't in the top 10, but more top 20 wins are kind of the way to go.
Germany, I think, have qualified now for the quarterfinals as a result of their 2-1 win over China. I saw people getting pretty annoyed at Laura Siegmund after the second set, I guess it was. I'm not sure which set it was, but it was over an issue where I think she got a racket. Did the ball clip her racket? Landed out? Like, so this is a passing shot from Gao, and I think she just touched her racket and it landed out right, but the umpire didn't notice. Am I getting that right?
I didn't even see it, to be honest, but it wouldn't be the first time. There's a double bounce controversy with Siegmund as well in the past.
Yeah. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I haven't seen this one.
Yeah. So maybe because she ended up losing the match, it probably didn't get it had some momentum during the match. So I think there's a passing shot and Laura just gets it touches her racket very faintly, goes out behind her, and she should technically lose the point because, her ricochet off the racket in the end ended up probably putting it out, although actually it went out by some distance. But that's not the point. Really, Laura should have lost the point, and you would think that she would be aware that it touched her racket. But because it lands out, the umpire just sees it as a straight passing shot. Anyway, we'll move on because neither of you saw it, but I did catch it, albeit I didn't watch the match. And Laura ended up losing anyway. That was the one victory that China had. What about Zverev Zhang? I saw you tweeting about this match, Damien.
Yeah, I mean, Triple Z kind of like played a really good first set, put a lot of pressure, and after that, I think most of his, like, when his shots were out, they were out, and they were like out by a long distance. And yeah, I mean, honestly, it wasn't too enjoyable. But well, I mean, they're into the quarterfinals, China, because they're actually already guaranteed to be the best runner-up in Perth. So they're going to have another shot sort of to go at it. It's a good effort for them, obviously, without Kinven. The doubles is fine. Today they lost to Zygmunt Zverev, of course, the defending champions, but making the quarters is already pretty good for them. Although I think they will play the winners of Group A, so the ones where it's likely going to be the States. So yeah, it's going to be a tough one for China. But despite that, the fact that Kinven decided to pull out before the event to still make the quarters, I think is already a pretty nice result for them.
So do the countries stay in that city for the quarterfinals then? Is that how it works? So China would play potentially the States, for example, and let's say Kazakhstan plays Germany, and that would also take place in Perth. I guess that makes sense that they just keep them in the same city for the quarterfinal rather than getting some of them flying across the other side of the country.
I mean, yeah, because they wouldn't have to there's no way to do it any other way because you can't go Sydney, Perth, Sydney. You can only go, for one change. So yeah, I mean, that's how it works. And then by the semis, I think there's also a rule where you can't play the nation with which you were in the group. So there could be some switch ups there. But anyway, yeah, from the semis, then there would be Sydney only. And of course, the Perth quarterfinals are happening a bit earlier so that the players have the time to get over to the other city, other time zone even, I think.
There could well be, Zhao, some people on the team that are from a different country other than Greece. I mean, we've seen that a lot during the United Cup where we see Nicholas.
Yeah, but that conversation, we're referring to, that was just him and the coach, right?
Oh, right. Okay.
The one where he's talking about his backhand.
Yeah. So that is unusual, but there we go. It is what it is, and maybe Steph just decided whatever. I don't know. Maybe he's in Australia and he feels that he wants to give those viewers a little bit more value for money. Although there's quite a few Greek speakers, of course, particularly in southern Australia. Okay, anyway, moving on. But Siegmund and Zverev getting the win, but China and Germany will both progress to the quarterfinals. So that is starting to take shape. What else have we got? We've got Great Britain, no less, beating Argentina 2-1. Bolter beating Podoroska. Echeverry beating Billy Harris despite losing the first set, and then the Brits taking the tie with a straight sets win in the doubles. Any thoughts or comments on this, Vanch? We can also move on if you don't really have much to say. I mean, Bolter getting that win, I guess you'd expect it. Harris doing well to take a set, I guess.
Yeah, Harris did really well to take the first set, but then Echeverry was just way too consistent, too precise. His serve, he started serving way better. I watched some of that. Bolter, I didn't get a chance to watch as much, but I saw some highlights and she was, just striking the ball pretty well. She had a decent-ish finish to the last year, but somewhat disappointing in the Billie Jean King Cup. She should have won that match against Shevchenko. So, but, expectations are kind of similar, like just kind of repeat the type of year that you had last year, which isn't going to be easy because she did win 2 titles. But maybe, some ground to gain in the slam results. And, I expect Bolter to have a similar-ish type of year that she'd had last year, just in a different way.
Okay, let's move on to tomorrow, as it is in 30 minutes for Damien and I. Today, as it already is in Australia, and an hour or two from now for those of you on the west coast of the US where Vanch is. Well, Vanch, you can get all excited because your home country is in action against Croatia in Perth. Taylor Fritz up against Borna Coric, Coco Gauff against Donna Vekic, and then the doubles to follow. If we just hone in on those matches before we come to the other encounter, what are your thoughts? I mean, Taylor Fritz lost unbelievably to Felix Auger-Aliassime. Give us some thoughts on Fritz against Coric.
Well, yeah, like you said, he lost to Felix, and Felix also had a bit of a shocker against Coric the first day because he had like a sitter forehand. He had a sitter forehand to go up, serve for a 6-0, 5-2, serve for a 6-love, 6-2 win, and then he had multiple other chances, but just kind of botched all of them. Coric did well to kind of hang around and extract some of those errors. But then tennis is so funny because then the next day, Fritz is kind of in a similar-ish position where he's serving for the match. Maybe not quite as dominant as Felix was against Coric, but similar type of scoreline. And then, Felix kind of comes out of his shell, runs around some backhands, comes up with some really, really good play, and actually really took that match. It was in very impressive fashion, and he really comes alive when he plays for Canada, like we saw at the Olympics. He's done it at the ATP Cup before, Davis Cup. Basically, all the team events. Those are the best version of Felix that you get outside of indoor courts, indoor hard, like after the U.S. Open in 2022. But regardless, I think Vekic against Coco is going to be interesting because of what happened at the Olympics. Because that's another, that was kind of a match that you thought going in Coco would win. Obviously, much different circumstances for Coco right now. She looks pretty confident. Played really great against Fernandez. But I'm curious to see what Vekic can kind of do to hurt her and penetrate through her defense because Coco right now seems like a pretty sizable, decentish favorite to me, and to win that match. And then Fritz Coric is interesting because Coric has a 4-0 head-to-head, but all of that was pre-2021, 2022 Fritz. So I don't think we can read that much into it, but I'm kind of interested to see how Fritz bounces back after losing his first.
I would expect the US to win those two, but now you talk to me about head-to-head. That sort of takes me back, I suppose. Vekic was indeed very flat, I felt, against Leylah. And I'm a little bit worried about Donna ahead of this season. And I think Coco will probably get the job done. That result, by the way, that one slipped me by, that one at the Olympics. And that does explain how Vekic ends up getting a silver medal on clay. I don't really know what happened to Coco that day, Vanch.
Yeah, she had that was the patch that Coco was really having a tough time with her serve and forehand. Like it just, the double faults were all over the place. The forehand, she just kind of felt a lot of pressure coming in because you thought at least she would get one medal in mixed doubles and singles, but it didn't happen in any of them for her. And yeah, that was kind of the match where things spiraled out of control. She had a bit of an argument with the umpire in the second set.
Oh yeah,
a line call.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, she should have won the first set. She had multiple. Yeah, she was up a break like twice, served for it. But that's all I really remember. And then yeah, that it just wasn't a great. Outside of Fritz and Paul winning the bronze, there wasn't as too much to cheer about for the US.
Damien, you are Borna Coric's coach. I don't know if you know that, but you are right now. How are you going to beat Taylor Fritz?
Oh, Jesus. I mean, Borna Coric had such a horrible season last year. Of course, he also kind of like revamped his game after the elbow injury. I don't know. I mean, probably just tell him to be like very relentless and, try to serve as best as he can and hope for the best. Just forget about all these matches you played with him in 2019. This isn't Taylor Fritz from 2019 anymore. But I don't think, any like particular strategizing is needed. It's more of a shame that like Coric isn't able to play that kind of tennis anymore when he was just a wall. And right now he's...
Backhand down the line, Damien? Backhand down the line? Is that something that...
Right now he becomes, a bit too much of a attacking player sometimes even. Backhand down the line against Taylor Fritz. I mean, Taylor Fritz is definitely not going to go backhand down the line. So maybe you can, indeed, you get that sort of like, 10 shots where you can potentially choose the best one, the best opportunity you can for that corridor. Because Taylor is obviously just going to give it to you. I don't know. I mean, certainly players like this can be troubling for Taylor, Alex de Minaur, Cam Norrie, right? I mean, these are all like tough head-to-heads for him. But he's probably ready to start rebuilding in that one too. But still, I mean, the United States team isn't really like in the prime position that we would expect them to be after the opening match, of course, given that Taylor lost to FAA. So it's not as obvious that they are going to advance as probably we would have expected. So it's still all intriguing.
I'm Borna Coric, and Damien has not filled me with confidence. And though he's not going to be fired just yet, I am going to add Vanch to my team. Vanch, tell me what I can do to beat Taylor Fritz.
Well, he really has to serve really well. That's obvious. But I think he was what he was doing against Felix is he was really pinning him in the backhand corner. Now that won't work that well against Fritz because Fritz just has a much better backhand and he's able to kind of do damage on his own, and even from like ankle level he's able to generate a lot of power. But I would say don't be scared of the forehand. Like go after it. Try to spread the court as much as you can with that. Like don't try to finish points with it necessarily because that's when the errors come. And George kind of is a little shaky on that wing, but he's played some of his best tennis when he's really gone after it and been really aggressive on the first shot after the serve. And look for forehands because the backhand is going to do well, but against Fritz is going to match him in that department. Backhand pretty much everywhere. I just don't see a clear edge for Coric, but if he can be a little bit more aggressive than Taylor is expecting on the forehand, that's where he could maybe make some inroads and come forward a little bit more, get Fritz coming forward because that's where he's still not quite as comfortable finishing points. The transition game is still a bit of a work in progress for Taylor. And so if Fritz gets sucked into kind of can't hit through Coric, like sometimes it kind of does against De Minaur and Norrie, like Damon was pointing out, then that could be an area where he can win some of those long rallies. And I still expect it to be decently close because I do think Coric has what it takes to make it very competitive. I just don't know if his form will be good enough, and I know Fritz is very good at bouncing back from tough defeats. So I still think he's going to get it done pretty easily, but he's a pretty big favorite, but I still think it could be one to watch.
Fair enough. Okay, let's switch to Italy, France. Damien is pretty big on Italy's chances of going on to take the title. At least he thinks they should be reckoned with, and he thinks that one or two of us have been sleeping on them. Cobolli against Humbert. Humbert winning his match against Stricker in straight sets a few days ago. I remember Paolini obviously getting a win as well. Thoughts on Cobolli Humbert, Damien?
Pretty close. Like I honestly wouldn't just say that Ugo Humbert is, the overwhelming favorite there. He should have lost the second set against Stricker. Stricker was 5-3 up with a match point, with a set point. He was generally better there. There was like a pretty big athletic edge that he could also expose. I mean, nothing like this against Cobolli, and Cobolli is just so well-rounded too. I don't know. This is probably my favorite United Cup match of today. And Italy has that great advantage of having Paolini against Paquet, which is like, Swiatek Hergo levels, not really, but like almost. And I mean, they probably have the best mixed team as well in the whole competition. So yeah, I still like their chances to advance here quite a bit, and potentially also to go deep later.
How about Paulini beating Bencic 1-1?
Yeah,
that was quite a statement.
It was a pretty striking contrast to the last few matches that Belinda played. Maybe you should have expected that. Maybe not. I think that still with time she will be able to get back to the level of Paulini more or less. But yeah, that was just a match where Jasmine is, you can see how much fire she has for these team-based competitions, even more so than for the regular tour. And obviously she was fantastic at the Beijing King Cup as well. I don't think she's gonna buckle down easily here, and not to Chloe Paquet.
Any final United Cup thoughts, Vanch, either from any of these players in action for Italy or France, or anything I might have missed before we switch to other tournaments?
I'm trying to think. I mean, Casper Ruud looks pretty good to me so far.
Yeah.
I mean, the match against Mahach was pretty fun. Both guys were really bringing it for the most part at the same time. And he seems to be taking his backhand on the line a bit earlier, going for it a bit more, being a little bit more aggressive, or changing his return position, sometimes standing pretty far back, sometimes ending in. And he looks like the Casper Ruud last year, this time of the year. So yeah, maybe, and he could really use. He has a lot coming up to try to defend, or at least not try to fall into the trap that he has had the last couple of seasons, which is basically kind of go away in the second half of the year. But so yeah, you'd like to see a good Australian Open from him.
Cool. Just before we switch to other stuff, I just want to give a bit of a promo for an article that will be on the website in the next few hours. Nick sharing some pre-2025 WTA thoughts. So do check that out as and when that gets published. As I say, it should be up in the next hour or two. Okay, let's switch our attention, shall we, to Brisbane and ATP 500, I think it is. We had a doubles encounter involving 250?
500 for the WTA, 250 for the...
Okay, 250, yeah, okay, yeah. 250 ATP, thank you. Yeah, we had some doubles action. We had Kyrgios and Djokovic with a few fireworks and some special shots around the net and some good defense, I remember, from Djokovic as well. And yeah, seemed like a lot of fun was being had with the pair winning ultimately in a third set, deciding set tiebreak, Vanch.
Yeah, there were some highlight points, like you said, there around the net shot from Djokovic, the tweener thing from Kyrgios, and then just just what you would basically expect. I think generally it's a polarizing team, no matter how you look at it. Based on some people are just, they don't want to see a single point of it, and then other people are super hyped for it. So that definitely, I don't know, it's going to bring some intrigue the further they go, and then mainly we'll see how they look in the singles. I think that's what I'm mostly curious to see. How does Kyrgios look against Pechi Pericard, and because that's quite a tough draw.
Definitely, yeah. Just before we get to tomorrow's action, or today's action, I should probably say, Damien, surely you've got a word to say about Benjamin Bonzi.
Okay, I mean, I could. Wasn't expecting it, but sure.
I mean,
yeah,
you had it this time yesterday, so I think we need.
Yeah, I wanted to watch it. I watched most of it. However, I was half asleep sometimes, but definitely from the second set onwards, he was just pretty dominant on serve. And it was more of that very attacking Benjamin Bonzi we saw in Metz or the free challengers beforehand. And yeah, I mean, I'm simply quite interested because of the off season, I forgot that Bonzi is on this crazy run, right? Because that's what he finished his season on, the ATP 250 Metz maiden ATP Tour title. And yeah, I mean, he looked every bit as good here. I think Tabilo is a seed that we generally expect to disappoint a bit this year, or at least go a bit lower in the rankings than he is right now. So obviously that was a decent opportunity, and he was able to take it, even if it took him a while to kind of get going. He could have won the first set as well, had a set point, but I guess that was just more of a mess rather than later on just streamlining towards the end.
Before we looked, Vanch, to today's action as it is in Brisbane, anything else to talk about from yesterday in Brisbane?
Oh, well, we did have Yuri the Hechka beating Holger. Who made the final last year.
Yeah, but I don't know. I guess I should be focusing on Lehechka, but I couldn't help but see some of the people getting very annoyed with Holger's performance on Twitter.
I mean, he played Lehechka, you know.
I know.
It's always pretty insane. Like,
I agree.
So.
I agree, but maybe it's because it was Danish journalists that were honing in on the performance of Holger.
Yeah, but that's obviously a match that could go either way, and
yeah,
it's 2-2 now in their head-to-head, and it didn't seem like there was a clear favorite. But I think Holger, there's probably have a few regrets in both the sets, but it's still kind of early, and he can bounce back. But I think some people are kind of like, this year is like, is it going to be more of the same kind of, we don't know what to expect match in, match out, set by set, or is there going to be a little bit more stability in his game, and will he find more of that identity that we know he has what it takes to be a top 10 player? So can he actually like get himself back in the top 8 and put himself in the mix again?
Okay, let's hone in on some of the upcoming matches in Brisbane. And I think, Damien, we should start with Umpechi Padikar against Nick Kyrgios, who's returning to singles action for the first time since US Open 2022. Is that? No.
June 2023, he played in Stuttgart. He lost to
yes.
with a very serious knee injury. He was looking like he rushed his comeback, and he did. But even after the US Open in 2022, he was still playing. His last match was actually beating Kamil Majchrzak in Tokyo. And then he withdrew from the quarterfinals. However, I mean, you said tough opponent, but at the same time, that's kind of the opponent you want when you're coming back. It's just going to be a serve fest, regardless of how well Kyrgios is moving. Based on the doubles, it looks like, he's healthy. I didn't watch it full. I watched just some points, but I mean, it looked like he's fine. So my expectations are actually pretty high. There's no reason why he shouldn't be like getting these sets to like a 7-5, 7-6 type of deal. And then we'll see. But yeah, maybe that's actually a pretty good opponent to start with.
Is he going to have any other matches before the Australian Open? Is there any more tournaments between now and Australia? No, Vance is shaking his head. So really, could do with a win or two just to get.
I don't think he signed up. Technically, you get a wild card to like, what is there, Auckland or
Adelaide? No,
the Australian thing. Adelaide, Adelaide. So like in Adelaide, that's definitely a possibility. But yeah, I mean, I don't think he used his PR on either event.
He's not using his PR. It says on the website he's using his PR for now, but he might not be. Anyway, Djokovic against
in this one for this one, yes, for this one for the Australian Open. I mean for the for next week, I don't think he used it.
Got it. Djokovic, Hijikata, Vance. Is it going to be all plain sailing for Novak?
Should be. I mean, there might be some little bit of rest because he hasn't played competitively since, well, I was going to say the Six Kings Slam, but maybe since the Shanghai final. So yeah, it's been a while, but obviously, I don't think Hijikata is the type of opponent that if Djokovic is near or close to his best, that would really trouble him much. So I expect that to be more or less smooth sailing.
Yes, I'm just seeing they've never played before. So I'm just trying to think of some positives for Rinky. Never played before, an Australian in Australia. Yeah, probably the first 3 or 4 games might be Rinky's moment to make that move as Novak eases himself back into the singles tour. But that's about it, I think. Am I missing anything, Damien, with this particular match?
No, I don't think so. I mean, Rinky last year is also another example of like getting 2 good runs and staying on the ATP tour, really. And I mean, he's never beaten a top 20 player before. To go from that and defeat Djokovic here would be a pretty massive leap.
I think I know which Damien you're going to choose, but if I gave you a ticket for either Arnaldi Popyrin or Tiafoe Walton, which one are you choosing?
I mean, everybody would choose Arnaldi Popyrin. I think it's just a much better, encounter. I mean, Adam Walton kind of sits in the same boat with Rinky. Walton, I don't think, has beaten a top 50 player yet. Not that he's had many chances, but obviously he's like 3-11 on the ATP tour. Like his game really like ran out of steam when he got to the main tour last year. I'm not really sure that will improve as long as he's like this very defensive, passive player. Anyway, yeah, I mean, Arnaldi Popperin, we've had some great matches between them in 23. Of course, the Davis Cup finals, UMAC semis. So yeah, that's definitely my vote.
Other matches on tomorrow will be Gomez against Opelka, Vanch, Cazot against Korda, Basavareddy against Monfils, and Mensik against Kukushkin. Are you excited about one or more of those matches? I mean, Opelka obviously, in action, having had a largely injury hit, was it 2 years, maybe 2.5 years?
Yeah, he came back and then actually did really well in Newport, made the semis there. Kind of didn't seem like he lost too much, physically, but the Basavareddy match I'm really interested in, one face. Like the more tour level matches that Basavareddy and Nishesh plays against these types of opponents, just give you a lot more data and info as to where he's at. He's also qualified, right? So he has some, he can
Goyo and Pui, two pretty good wins. The Goyo one was, I mean, he really had to like compete his way into the match, but against Pui, it was, smooth sailing.
Yes, indeed. Can you just tell us something about Basavareddy that we don't probably know, Damien?
I don't know. I mean, he was at the Next Gen Finals, so obviously we got a lot of conversation about him there. He like lives or like is from the same town as Rajiv Ram, and Rajiv Ram has been very important in his progress. I think so far the only player who had the ability to access the college and the junior accelerators at the same time. So like he had a top 10 junior ranking, he had a top 10 college ranking at the same time, just pretty insane. Of course, just turned pro in a few weeks ago. To me, he's got the higher ceiling of the Basavareddy debate, but who knows? But yeah, I mean, it's obviously just really good for him to get these opportunities, as Vanch said, because this is literally his first ATP Tour event, unless you count Next Gen Finals or US Open qualies, which is not ATP Tour, rather Tour level. So yeah, I mean, it really cannot be overstated how much of a first this is for him.
Final thoughts either on Basavareddy or anything else on the screen right now, Vanch?
No, I'll be interested to see how Korda looks also. He had obviously had the run in DC and Canada, and that's when he played his best tennis last year. But he's kind of, everyone looks at him in the beginning of the year and he's like aesthetically one of the most beautiful players to watch, and everyone kind of just like, yep, he'll be top 20, he'll be top 20, he'll be top 10, and then it just kind of like, he kind of gets there sometimes, but it's like, then he's not healthy for 3 months, or then he can't really put it together, or he doesn't really bring it in the slams outside of the one Australian Open run. So yeah, like he's always just kind of a wait and watch, but like, he's now going to be 25 this year. So
Artur Cazot's first top 50 win, by the way, was against Sebastian Korda 3 years ago, almost 4 by now. Madrid qualifying 2021. There was that clay season where Cazot beat Korda and Manarino, and was kind of a big story, of course, coming off the French Open runner-up finish. French Open, Australian Open, I was to say.
Yeah.
Okay. Any final ATP thoughts before we go to WTA, Vanch?
No. I think we covered it. Yeah.
Great. We will have the first sighting of the world number 1, Aryna Sabalenka, since the WTA finals. She's in action against the Mexican Sarasua. We also have top 10 end of year predicted by Gil Gross, Paula Badosa in action. I think he had her finishing at number 9 in the world come the year end. She didn't quite make my top 10. Do let me know in the comment section what do you think about that. But she's up against, I don't know if she's a friend of the show anymore. It's such a long time since I spoke to her, and we've elevated various other players now to that status, obviously, in terms of them making comments before the show begins. But nevertheless, I still have fond memories of that conversation with Avanesian. Sabalenka should hit the ground running pretty well, Damien.
Yeah, I mean, Sarasua, if Jake is in the chat, I know he really enjoyed Tomova Sarasua. And that was, well, you can hear that it's not really going to be a match that's going to be enjoyable for anybody but the players. and probably the players neither. And Jake, I know, was really hating on it when I was doing the Mahac Root stream. But yeah, I mean, Sabalenka should really cruise here. Of course, she was the runner-up last year in Brisbane. She doesn't maybe have the most consistent play style and everything, but there are limits, and I think there's not much that Zarazua can really pressure her with.
Avanesian, by the way, I think she could frustrate Badosa.
I think so too. She's pretty smart in terms of how she constructs her points, and
these are second rounds already. She's defeated Shramkova to get here.
Yeah,
it's a good win.
I still think Avanesian ultimately at the end of her career will be sort of more of a clay court player than a hard one, but
for sure.
But she's had some pretty good results on the hard courts, and I think she can frustrate and throw in a few boom balls and annoy Paula. This is Paula's first match, then, I guess.
Yeah, because the seeds are coming into play in the second round.
Yeah, I can see that. If I would imagine Paula Badosa would be quite a warm to heavy favorite, maybe with the bookies. But if I was a betting person, and I'm not, I might just put $1 or $2 on Avanesian there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I could see that being competitive.
I can see it being competitive, and the longer it goes on, and Badosa's obviously first match of the season, etc., that could be a surprise. Somebody's saying that she'll reach the top 30 one day. I don't think that's too crazy to suggest that, Swana. Okay, other matches tomorrow on the WTA side in Brisbane include Blinkova, Andreeva, Buskova, Ostapenko, and Jabeur Alexandrova. I know a lot of people are very pleased to see Jabeur back on the tour. When did she last play? I'm thinking summer of last year, pre-US Open.
I think that match against Naomi that we did. Oh yeah, that Damien and I did watch along for, actually.
That was the last one. Yeah, I think yesterday, but before then.
Yes, before the return yesterday, yeah.
Yeah, probably Vansh is right. I didn't realize that was her last match.
Jabeur against Osaka.
Yeah, Jabeur against Osaka in Canada, maybe?
Canada, yeah, because Cincinnati, Osaka lost in the qualies, right? So it has to be Canada.
Yeah.
So that's cool, but it's not going to be easy against Alexandrova for sure. I wouldn't even be surprised if Jabeur's sort of return maybe doesn't end in another win in this particular encounter. Buskova against Ostapenko. Well, for me, Ostapenko, her form in the last 9 months has just fallen off a cliff, and she doesn't even feel like somebody that we're considering anymore for going deep in big tournaments. But maybe she can prove me wrong against Buskova. And then we've got Blinkova against Mira Andreeva. Vanch, which one of these 3 matches do you want to share your thoughts on?
Well, Alexandrova and Jabeur have had some really close matches before, and that's like the ultimate contrast of style.
Mm-hmm.
Like just total laser power versus just completely different game style, and Jabeur with the variety and everything. But Jabeur looked pretty explosive and springy, and that's mainly what I was looking at. And
Okay.
I mean, there were a few errors against side. It wasn't all very clean, but then when she navigated through that first set, came from a breakdown in the second, I kind of was like, okay, maybe she can make some progress, and then by the time we get to the clay, maybe then we're talking about her around Charleston, Stuttgart, Rome, that kind of thing. I could really see her putting together some run on the clay and the grass. But until then, I think she's just gonna have to try to stay healthy, because that's been the biggest challenge. She has not been able to play any healthy free tennis the last couple of years in February and March, and even January for the most part. So if she could just get a couple of matches here, that would be already really good.
Talking of contrasting styles, we've got Blinkova, of course, from the fame of being in one of the best matches of 2024. That wasn't just a tie-break, Vanch, up against Mira Andreeva. I've seen a tweet from Vanch, semi-apologetic, going, you know what, that match was more than just the tie-break.
Yeah, I definitely didn't with everything else going on in Australian second round, with all the men's matches, with the Zverev and Medvedev and the other the Rude 5-setter. There was so much happening that day that I just didn't maybe give it as much importance as I should have, because I remember watching the tiebreak, but I don't think I tuned in for parts before that. And when I went back to go rewatch it, I was like, okay, yeah, actually this was really high quality. So
yeah,
That if they had it in the top 5.
I like this Blinkova-Andreeva match for similar reasons you mentioned with Jabeur and Alexandrova in terms of the contrast in styles. Damien, have you got anything to share on this before we move on?
Yeah, not really. I mean, indeed, Andreeva, is going to be expected to be the winner and everything. You expect her to, like, her career to start rolling even more. But yeah, Blinkova is just one of these players. If she has a good day, it's not going to be easy to beat her. So I don't know if I'm going to watch any of these, actually. But probably that's the one that seems the most exciting to me, Blinkova-Andreeva.
I think if Blinkova has a good day, she's top 10. But the problem is that, yeah, if she has a good day, if she has a good day, she can mix it with the latest.
If I have a good day, I'm in the top 20 then.
Okay, we've got Kessler up against Putintseva, Kalinskaya also in action against Kruger, and I think that rounds off the women's action there. We've also got, of course, in Auckland, a tournament going on. I don't know if you saw that. Well, I'm sure you're aware of the fact, Vanch, but Naomi Osaka's got her campaign up and away with a win in straight sets.
Yeah, I saw that 4-4, and I think she's actually come out saying before the match, interestingly, that if the results don't start to improve, then she's considering just staying at home and feeling like, okay, I've given it a good go, and that's about it. But the signs weren't encouraging for some parts of last year. It's just that they didn't always translate into the big runs, like we kind of thought after the Iga performance at Roland Garros. But she's still inside the top 60, so it's like, and she's playing a lot of tournaments. So, she looked pretty sharp in her first match. But yeah, obviously, I think she's been actually mostly getting through first rounds, but it's like the second and third round that usually trips her up. But
some matches are already underway, by the way. Christian has already started her match against Starop Tubseva, and Kenan and Wong as well underway. But just regarding Naomi, yeah, I took those comments and was a bit taken aback by them because just seemed a bit of a unusual moment in the season to mention that. Of course, I don't know how those comments were prompted. But Volley-Net's getting a win over the other Andreeva sister, and Sloane Stephens not getting her campaign off to a great start. But before we leave Auckland, and in fact, before we bring this show to a close, I do want to just have a look at some matches that are coming up, including, I think, Emma Raducanu is in action. Someone's going to have to remind me who she's playing.
Montgomery.
Montgomery, yes.
Good.
Yeah, I think it could be.
That seems like a fun one, actually. Montgomery is someone else who I think could make a big splash this year. Remember that match that she played against Sabalenka in Madrid, and I was impressed. So, and I also watched her in DC, and I was like, okay, like this is top 50 easily. She keeps up her progress.
I agree. I don't know much about her in terms of surface preference, but yeah, that Clay Madrid match in particular was
on her day she can almost match Blinkova.
On their day, of course. I mean, in terms of ceilings and peaks, that of course is not really what tennis is about. It's all about your floor, really. I guess that's the well-known expression. But yeah, Montgomery, Raducanu will be keen to have an injury-free season, and one where at least she's preparing for Australia, unlike other Grand Slams, I think, in the past, where she just decided to turn up and hope to maybe go deep.
Trivia question. Do you know how many matches, like just professional, any level, and Raducanu, like how many, what was it, in which, I don't care which season, but like how many matches in a season is the absolute max for Emma Raducanu so far in her professional career?
30.
At all levels?
Yeah, all levels.
30 is a good guess. Maybe even like 25. I don't know. She hasn't played.
Yeah, that's a little harsh. Like she had a few seasons which were 25 plus, but John was a bit closer. Like last year, she played 36 matches, and it's almost the highest she's gone. Her record was 37. So that just kind of really shows you, from the very beginning of her career, she's like almost not playing. Yeah, it's not last year's Swarna, but last year's number is off by 1, so it's close. And I was kind of shocked by that. Like when you think about it, yes, of course, sure. But I don't know, it's just pretty crazy that like she's been developing all this time without actually playing matches for the most part.
she still shows little flashes, like in Stuttgart last year, that there is something there that we can sort of clutch to if you're looking at it from a British perspective. But then it just disappears very quickly. And then it's like 3 months, and then there's an injury, then there's a coaching change, then there's a lack of warm-ups for a Grand Slam, because she says she's focusing on the Asian swing that she then ultimately gets injured for. And you're just sort of shaking your head. Go on, Damien.
No, I was just reacting to the, I just remembered the quote about like the Asian swing and how important it is to her. And then, of course,
and then she gets injured, I think, first or second match there.
She had a good grass swing last year, right? Which I think is why her ranking is at inside the top 60 now.
Yeah, I mean, she had Wimbledon, obviously. She had Nottingham semis. Yeah. I think there was a lot of like positive signs last year. It's just that, she's never played more than 36 matches in a season. Like, yeah, I just want her to have a normal year. Some players play 35 events a year.
I played under 15 tournaments and I'm still top 60 or something like that, right?
Okay.
That sort of like rubbed people the wrong way or something. I remember this like a few weeks ago.
I mean, sure, yeah. I mean, she had 2 big slam runs, right? So that will kind of cover it.
She also, pre-Australian Open last year, who did she go to a third set tiebreak with?
Svitolina. It was a very long match, yeah.
Yeah, Svitolina. So again, there were sort of flashes there that suggested something, but then I think her loss in Australia in the end was a bit disappointing. But yep, so she's up in action in a few hours from now, or a little bit more than a few hours, I guess, given that it'll be earliest 6:30 a.m. Central European time. All right, anything else, Auckland, before we wrap things up, Vanch?
No. There's also Hong Kong, I guess, which is not.
Yeah, and I know Eddie's there.
Side, but yeah,
anything to share on Hong Kong?
Well, I was, the match between Tian and Nakashima is not going to happen anymore because, Cam Norrie beat Tian.
Yeah,
and
Lorenzo Sonego beat Brandon.
Sonego beat Brandon Nakashima. Yeah, Lorenzo Sonego, of course, who just has 2 or 3 really good tournaments every year and just peaks like he did last year in Winston-Salem, where he just played like a blowout final against Mickelson and was just like so good the whole week, and suddenly the forehand is just on fire. And so it was kind of a peaking performance from him. I watched the tiebreak and kind of the start of the second set, and I kind of was like, okay, yeah, so this is yet another player peaking against Brandon. And now we'll see if they can go on and win the title, basically.
Any other thoughts on Hong Kong, Damien, before we wrap up?
Honestly, I don't remember the schedule even all that much. I know that Shang and Wong are playing again. Nishikori, of course, is facing Shapo. Shapo withdrew from the doubles with an illness, so I wonder if what sort of state he's going to show up in. I think in Auckland as well. There's your top 10 pick, right, against Alicia Parks. So that's a pretty big one as well to start her season.
Who?
Your top 10 pick.
Yeah, but I mean,
yeah.
I see. My big pick. Yeah. Anisimova. Yeah. Yeah, I think she'll win that one.
Alicia Parks just won Angers, 5-match win streak. The queen of WTA 1-5s.
Yeah. There we go. But Anisimova's beating her, that's for sure. And I really hope that Anisimova is aware of her backing from me, and it inspires her to have a great year. If I saw that I'd been picked for a top 10 place, I think it would give me a nice little boost. And if she's ever down and she's walking onto court thinking, I'm not sure if I'm going to win today, she should just play the chat that Gil Gross and I had about her, and then it'll be like, yep.
So that means I'm guessing you have 4 Americans in your top 10.
I might have. I think I've got it saved here. Let me just run it across the bottom.
There we go. Right? So you have
1, 2, 3, 4. Indeed,
you do.
Top 10.
Indeed, but of course, Talking Tennis has an anti-American agenda. We know that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do have 4 Americans in my top 10. Probably more than Gil does, actually. Who's he got? He's got Pegula, Navarro, and Goff. So yeah, 3.
Gil sort of has 4 because Badosa.
Okay, I guess.
She's entitled to the citizenship. I don't know if she has it, but she's entitled to it.
I don't think she needs it though.
It's
It's not like she's struggling to get in any countries.
No, but if you have the ability to have a U.S. citizenship, you're probably gonna pick it up, right? I mean,
I
why
guess,
not?
yeah. Just get a job in McDonald's if needs be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Serving hamburgers like another president-elect. Okay. From U.S. elections and president-elect to citizenship for Pauline.
Rest in peace, Jimmy Carter.
Yeah. Rest in
100
peace.
years old.
Yeah. 100 years
I
old.
think Scott Barkley tweeted he was alive to see Fred Perry win Wimbledon and Andy Murray win Wimbledon.
That's really good, actually. Yeah.
It's such a good tweet, right?
Yeah, that's
I'm sure like 13-year-old or whatever, no, 12-year-old, 11-year-old Jimmy Carter was at Wimbledon watching Fred Perry.
All right, cool. On that bombshell, I think we can bring this to a close. Oh, actually, I've got one more question for you both. We'll start with Vanch, but it is a question for both of you. If one of Iga Swiatek or Carlos Alcaraz are going to do the calendar slam this year, which one is it and why?
I mean, it has to be Carlos, right? It has to be
It's a
Carlos
question,
because he's
but-
just one away, and he's just one of the top favorites for Australia, and you just kind of think it will happen at some point. And yeah, I think I would go with him because Iga still needs to win 2 of them, and there's just a few more question marks surrounding her right now. But Carlos, you could see has the level to do it. Yeah, so I think it's actually not that hard. I would go with Carlos.
Fair enough. Damien?
Yeah, it's an easy question. I mean, best of 5 is one thing. Also, just like Swiatek winning Wimbledon, Australian Open, and the US Open in 1 year. That just sounds like stuff from like fairy tales. You know, if she wins 1, that's already good because obviously she hasn't been even like going deep in them. Whereas Carlos, Australia, okay, he's only played it twice since he became a top player. But like all the others, he's already won. He won the Channel Slam last year. So for him, it looks much more achievable.
A little bit, maybe a little bit different, but given the fact that Iga's a hot favourite in Roland Garros pretty much every year she turns up at the moment anyway, which one is more likely that they won't win a slam in 2025? I think the answer is still the same, as in like Carlos is unlikely to not win a slam and it's possible for Iga, but does it get a little bit closer in terms of likelihood between the two? Am I making sense of my question, by the way? So one of these is not winning a slam next year. Which one is that most likely to be? I still think it probably is Iga, but it gets a little closer, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Because she's such a warm favorite in Paris and Carlos.
Yeah, but then if she doesn't do it in Paris, you can like very easily see a way for her to not to get it. But Carlos doesn't have that one certain thing. So yeah, that's a better version of this question where there are actually 2 answers that people could go for.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Make sure you check out the Iga and Carlos show. I've got the Twitter handle there. When is your next episode? I think you've done one fairly recently, haven't you?
Like a week ago.
Did you do one with Gil Gross a week or so ago?
Yeah, that was the one.
Yeah, we did, and that's the first one on YouTube. So
yeah, exactly.
After you're done watching this video, you gotta subscribe to Iga Carlos Tennis on YouTube, and yeah, and then from now on,
reminds me
we'll
of
be
that
posting
plug Vanch we had when John wasn't around, when we had no producer, and I was already like going to end the stream, and then I'm like, oh, actually, since we can, and we started talking about Iga Carlos Tennis for like 5 minutes. But yeah, I mean, we're probably gonna do the next episode after the United Cup because, of course, Carlos isn't playing until Australia, so there's not all that much to mention there.
Clean shaven, Damien. Look at that. You were like, oh, I've got Gil Gross on the show today. Mr. Smooth tennis himself in so many respects. Vanch as well is extremely smooth. All 3 of you there look like you've all had a nice trim on the facial hair side of things. But yeah.
Just 3 podcasters in their mid-20s.
Yeah.
Talking for like an hour.
I'm no longer in my mid-20s. Somebody made a comment underneath the video of Gil and I, basically telling me to shut up. They said something like, "Just shut up and let Gil talk." I think that somebody said as a comment. So there you go. Anyway, feel free to do the same for this video if you wish. But anyway, in the meantime, I will be bringing this show to a close. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the tennis, which is just getting underway now in New Zealand and in Australia, and shortly, I guess, in Hong Kong. And in the meantime, you know the drill. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.